Hello and welcome to the Essex Boys Murder Case Part 28. Before watching this video, I recommend watching Part 4 onwards on YouTube first, as these videos are all about the key individuals and the murder victims movements on the day of the 6th of December 1995. Quick mention to the Facebook page called The Real Essex Boys Murder Club. If you're interested, please feel free to join, as there's some great people on there with a lot of knowledge on this subject. So we'll carry on from the last video where I was discussing the location and why it was chosen for the triple murders. We got up to Darren Nicholls, who was at the entrance to the White House Farm track, having received the phone call from Jack Wilms to come and pick them up. I'm also going on Darren Nicholls' second statement with these Day of the Murder videos, and how he says the triple murders happened. So this is the Google Earth view of the track, and down here that I'm circling now is the entrance, and according to Darren Nicholls, he said he drove along here and they had to wait for two oncoming vehicles to pass him before he could turn right and park up at the entrance of the track. He also said he turned the vehicle round facing the way he'd just come up, so basically his headlamps will be facing back down towards the Rettendon Turnpike. And I'll tell you what we'll do while we're here. We might as well just follow the route the Range Rover took that night. So it went along here, and eventually it bears to the left, so it would have gone up here, and eventually it would have arrived here and turned right and gone along here. And it would have stopped round about here because the 5-bar gates would have been here. So yeah, that's the route the Range Rover took that night. So Darren Nicholls turns up, Jack Wilms gets into the back of the Passat, then moments later Mick Steele gets into the front passenger seat. The murders have just taken place and the time is approximately 7:05 PM. Now this video today, it's more of a follow-on from my last one about this location and why it was chosen and by whom. As I said in the last video, I don't think Tucker, Tate or Rolfe have ever used this track before. Going along Main Road to Chelmsford and back to Basildon or Fobbing, yes, I think they would have used this route a lot of times. But to notice this track and use it for meets or drug deals, no, not for me. To them, I think they would have just seen White House Farm, which is just a minute's drive up from the track. Known it was obviously farmer's land, and they would have driven past, seen the track and just thought, you know what, it's just a farmer's track that leads to a field and nothing more. Now this track was used by fishermen who would use the lake to fish. They would pay for a permit and in return would get keys to unlock the gate. Now this track was also used for gaming hunts as well. Now I just can't see Tucker, Tate or Rolfe ever using this track before their murders. To me it was specifically chosen by the killer or killers for its rural location. I mean, it was excellent for an ambush so the victims could not escape. It's off the main road, so there will be no witnesses. To me, someone had to have prior knowledge of this track. They have used it and been down it before. So who knew about this track? Is it possible Darren Nicholls had prior knowledge of this track. Let's take a closer look at that possibility. Now, as I've been doing the research for these videos, and I've been going on Darren Nicholls' version of events according to his second statement, so much of it just doesn't add up. To me, it's been well scripted and put together with the help of the police. I think they've looked at the first statement and noticed a lot of discrepancies in it, having now got facts and information from other sources, so a new statement is needed from Darren Nicholls to fit this information in to make a stronger case against Mick Steele and Jack Wounds due to it being circumstantial. Some of this new information would include the cell site information, whose phones were in the area before and after the murders, when the victims last used their mobiles, the call from the Sorrel Horse pub payphone to Tony Tucker's mobile on the day of the murders. Now, let's not forget, Jack Wounds' place of work is only a few minutes' drive from this pub, so it would have been perfect for a meeting place with others, and they don't have to use their mobiles to contact Patsy or Tony Tucker. The police also know Pat Tate received a call at 6:44 p.m. That night from Sarah Saunders, so that could help the police with Darren Nicholls' new statement, knowing Pat Tate was still alive at 6:44 p.m. As Sarah Saunders proved this, as she said she spoke to him. I mean, the police can fit this in and amend the statement of Darren Nicholls. Just for example, say he said the murder happened at 6:30 p.m. The police had crime scene evidence, photos of the deceased. So, say if Darren Nicholls was told by Mick Steele and Jack Wounds that they both used their shotguns to kill Tucker, Tate and Rolfe, and now the police know that all the victims were shot by the same gun, Darren Nicholls would have to change his old statement and do a new one to fit in with this new information. So back to this location, and if anyone had prior knowledge of it, to lure the Essex boys to their deaths. Like I said in a previous video, the White House Farm track was perfect for an ambush. They were caught unawares with no escape route. All three were shot and murdered instantly. Shotguns could be used at close range for maximum damage. It had to be in a quiet rural location but off a main road, so there would be no witnesses. The murders had to take place at night, so the element of surprise was there. The killer or killers had to have a quick getaway, so a driver was needed to get them away from the murder scene. And this driver would need some knowledge of this area. They also needed quick access to a motorway, so I believe that was taken into account when they planned these murders. So did Darren Nicholls have prior knowledge of this farm track at Rettendon? It is possible. There's part of a statement from a Colin Bridge, which I'll read out later, but first of all, I just want to talk about the time Darren Nicholls and Colin Bridge were caught and arrested transporting 10 kilos of cannabis resin. So this is the route Darren Nicholls and Colin Bridge would have made that day, and heading towards Mick Steele's place in Clacton-on-Sea. They would have set off from Braintree, which is over here. They would have joined the A120 and gone past this place here, which is Mark's Tea, and they would have carried on along here, along the A12, and eventually arriving at Mick Steele's place at Meadow Cottage. Now, as the surveillance team watched, they saw Darren Nicholls take a toolbox out of the blue transit van, which was driven by Colin Bridge, as Darren Nicholls went in his Jaguar. And Darren Nicholls takes the toolbox inside Meadow Cottage, only to come out sometime later with the toolbox. Now Darren Nicholls puts it back into the blue transit van that Colin Bridge is going to be driving, and Darren Nicholls gets into his Jaguar XJ6. And what they do is they set off again, leaving Mick Steele's place here, go along the same route, along the A12, passing Colchester here, going along the A120, passing Marks T, and then they're heading back towards Braintree, which is over here, and then they get to this part here, which is the A131, and what they do is they turn right here and they head up here, and there's a roundabout here where where the marker is, and they take a left onto Broad Road, which is the B1053, and what we'll do is we'll just take a closer look at that road now. So this is Broad Road, and they're travelling along this stretch of the road here. I tell you what, I'll just turn round. Just up there is the roundabout. They would have taken the left, come along this route, along the B1053. Darren Nicholls would be in his Jaguar XJ6. Colin Bridge, the suicide jockey, is driving the blue transit van with the 10 kilos of cannabis in the toolbox. And they're driving along this stretch of the road, and the police are actually following them. And do you know what? They're only about 5 or 6 minutes away from Darren Nicholls' house, which was, I think it was 15 Bailey Bridge Road back then, in Braintree. Do you know what though? I tell you what. With the police surveilling him outside Meadow Cottage, and Darren Nicholls goes in with a toolbox, and he comes back out with a toolbox. I mean, that's not really suspicious, is it? And I'm just thinking now, I mean, if they had a tip-off that the drugs were going to be put into a toolbox that day, and they would be transported. But yeah, he's 5 or 6 minutes away from his address in Braintree, and the police are following him. I mean, I think 10 kilos of cannabis back in the 90s, I think it was worth around about £25,000 back then. But yeah, along this stretch of the road, the police decide to make the arrests, and they decide to pull both vehicles over and do a search of the blue transit van. Now, at the time of Darren Nicholls' arrest, unbeknown to him, his police handler, DC Bird, has also been arrested, along with another police officer, a Detective Sergeant Philip Stimpson, for police corruption. So what we'll do now is move on from this part where we know Darren Nicholls and Colin Bridge has been arrested, and they're going to be taken to, I think they go to Braintree Police Station first, and then they go to Chelmsford Police Station. So we'll move on from this particular part of the video. So this is Chelmsford Police Station, and this is where Darren Nicholls and Colin Bridge were brought in for questioning. And do you know what I've just seen? The Wheatsheaf pub. So that's our second Wheatsheaf pub we've come across on our travels. But yeah, in May 1996 they were brought to this place here, the Chelmsford Police Station. I'm just going to try and get a better view of it for you. Here we go. There we go, Chelmsford Police Station. And they were brought here to be interviewed about the cannabis that had been found in the blue transit van. Now, Darren Nicholls gave no comment answers to these allegations. Both Colin Bridge and Darren Nicholls are using the same duty solicitor, so he would have had a chat to them separately before the interview started, and my guess is Darren Nicholls was interviewed first. This might have been a bit of luck on Darren Nicholls' side, just in case Colin Bridge said what had really happened and confessed all. The duty solicitor has also told Darren Nicholls that many arrests have been made and included police officers. He also informed him of a pump-action shotgun that had been found at a premises which he had knowledge of. Now, Darren Nicholls' world is falling apart in front of him now. Then later on in the interview, he's also been told that he's going to be charged for the murders of Tony Tucker, Pat Tate and Craig Rolfe. Not only is he going to prison for the cannabis haul, but he's also going to prison for a very long time for the triple murders. Now he's in big trouble now and he knows it. Then after this particular part of the police interview, he says he will tell them his version of events at what happened at Retterton that night, mentioning Mick Steele and Jack Wilms as the murderers, and he was merely a driver and played no actual part in the murders. Now, just a thought, I wonder if Darren Nicholls knew if this day ever came and he was arrested over the triple murders. He always had this story of him just being a driver for Mick Steele and Jack Wilms, and he could do a deal to be a Supergrass. I mean, he may have had this in the back of his mind all this time. Right, so Darren Nicholls is going to tell them his version of events and that he was just the driver. Now, the thing is, Colin Bridge has just been interviewed, or will be interviewed soon, and the suicide jockey was the driver when the 10 kilos of cannabis resin was found in the blue transit van. Now he's looking at a stiff prison sentence, but guess what? Part of Darren Nicholls' deal is that Colin Bridge is released without charge. Can you believe that? Colin Bridge, the suicide jockey, who was caught with 10 kilos of cannabis resin, has no charges to face and is released. Darren Nicholls is still calling the shots. He's already decided to do a deal with the police. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, can you? I mean, Colin Bridge has been caught red-handed with £25,000 worth of drugs in Darren Nicholls' blue transit van. Do you know what? He's going to get a hefty jail sentence. And now Darren Nicholls is doing a deal with the police and he's going to tell them what happened at Retterton on the night of the murders, and will become a star witness for the prosecution when Mick Steele and Jack Wilms go on trial for the murders of Pat Tate, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe. And then he will go into the witness protection scheme. But before this, he asks for his suicide jockey and general gopher to be released without charge. And not only was Colin Bridge released without charge, but for reasons better known to the police and CPS, Colin Bridge now becomes a principal witness for the prosecution. Can you believe that? I mean, this case never fails to amaze me. I mean, I read that and I just couldn't believe it. I mean, did that really happen? 1 minute, Colin Bridge is going to be charged with being a drugs mule, and the next minute, he's a principal witness for the Rettington Range Rover murders. I mean, it's almost the same with Darren Nicholls. 1 minute he's charged with drug dealing and murder. The next minute he's going to be a star witness having turned supergrass. I mean, the duty solicitor at the time when those two were in custody, he must have been thinking, what the hell has just happened? This duty solicitor, Mr. Oddie, has been called out to represent not one but two men for their part in a drugs bust. And when he finally leaves the police station, one man's been charged with drug offences and triple murder, to which he's going to tell the police his version of events, and he was not involved in the actual murders, and is going to become a supergrass. And the other guy, who was caught driving a vehicle where the drugs were found, gets released without charge. Unbelievable. Right, so we'll move on from the interviews and move on to the next part of the video. So I'm just going to show you a few pictures of what the Volkswagen Passat looked like back then, which Darren Nicholls said he used for the Range Rover murders. I think I've got another picture for you, I'll just find it. Yeah, so this is another one, a 5-door Volkswagen Passat, and I'll just find, I think I've got one more to show you. Yeah, there you go. This is another one that I've found. It's just basically just to give you an idea of what the vehicle looked like. Now, according to Darren Nicholls, he sold the Passat to Jack Wombs months prior to the murders. Now, it's hard to actually know who owned the vehicle, as Darren Nicholls never put a sale date on it. Now, what is interesting is Colin Bridge says who owned the vehicle prior to Darren Nicholls. Now, he says Dave Trumley owned the Volkswagen Passat, and he is the employer of Darren Nicholls by the way of subcontracting electrical work to him. Now, this is where the plot thickens, as Dave Trumley is a close friend of DC Wolfgang Bird. As we know, DC Bird is Darren Nicholls' police handler, and he's been arrested prior to Darren Nicholls and Colin Bridge's arrests for the 10 kilos of cannabis found in the blue transit van. DC Bird was arrested for conspiracy to supply cannabis and theft before Darren Nicholls and Colin Bridge were arrested. They were all under surveillance along with Mick Steele, Jack Wombs, Peter Corey and the others. And it was set up to find the Rettington Range Rover murders, and it was called Operation Century. Now, at the time, DC Bird and Detective Sergeant Philip Stimpson were being targeted by Operation Apache, and at times that had up to 20 police officers on the case. Detective Sergeant Philip Stimpson was charged with stealing and supplying cannabis. They might have set up Operation Century after Donna Jaggers, Craig Rolfe's girlfriend, gave her statement mentioning a Mickey the pilot. Then when the police investigated and worked out Mickey the pilot was indeed Mickey Steele, then they may have set up the operation. Now, I don't know how Dave Trunley, Darren Nicholls and DC Bird all met under the circumstances, but having looked through some of the articles related to this case, it's my guess Dave Trunley and DC Bird were close friends and probably drank in the same pub. Dave Trunley employs Darren Nicholls as a subcontractor for electrical work. Darren Nicholls goes to the pub with Dave Trunley and gets introduced to DC Bird. DC Bird tells Nicholls who he is and how they can help each other, knowing what he's heard from Dave Trunley, and probably Darren Nicholls boasting to DC Bird what he does on the side. Then Darren Nicholls brings Colin Bridge into the fold and gets him the odd job as a general gopher / suicide jockey. Now, I have seen articles online that all these meeting, knowing each other, was before Darren Nicholls became DC Bird's handler and the death of the Essex Boys. So Dave Trunley owned the Volkswagen Passat before Darren Nicholls, and he also had and owned many shotguns, and he was also a regular at clay pigeon shoots. He and his friends, including DC Bird, would go on these shoots and often have heavy drinking sessions. And after these clay pigeon shoots and drinking sessions, they would ask Darren Nicholls to be their chauffeur and come and drive them to the shoots and pick them up. Not just clay pigeon shoots, but also animal hunts for foxes and rabbits, which, as statements from witnesses who lived in the Essex and especially the Rettendon area, I mean, it was part and parcel of their way of life in the countryside. So what we'll do is we'll just move on from this part of the video and have a look at some of the shooting ranges in the Essex area. Is it possible Dave Trunley, DC Bird and his colleagues have ever used the Rettendon area for these shoots, and Darren Nicholls was instructed to pick them up after their shooting trips, followed by heavy flow of alcohol? Now, as you can see from the map, there's a fair few shooting ranges in the Essex area, and which are all the red markers. There's quite a few dotted about. And just to the left up here somewhere would have been Braintree. Colchester is up here. And as you can see, the A130 is here. So White House Farm would have been round about here, and the track round about here. So I mean, if Darren Nicholls had to drive them to a clay pigeon shoot, he could have used the A130, driven down here, and he could have brought them to this one here, the big shoot, which is in Wickford. And along this route, he would have had to travel past White House Farm. And obviously, when he got the call to come and pick them up, he would have had to come down here, pick them up, and then drive them back up along here, take them to, well, DC Bird. We know DC Bird actually lived in Colchester, along with Philip Stimpson. I don't know where, and I cannot find anywhere where Dave Trunley lived back then. But definitely DC Bird and Detective Sergeant Stimpson, they lived in the Colchester area, which is up here. So I mean, with Braintree being over here, I mean, he would have driven along here, picked them up in Colchester, and driven down here along the A130 past White House Farm. He may have dropped them off at this clay pigeon shoot here. driven back up to Braintree, and then when they were finished, he would have had to do the same journey back down here. So I mean, he could have travelled along the A130 many times if they've used this clay pigeon chute. Also, just down here in Basildon, there's like a rifle or pistol range down here. I mean, I know Dave Trunley and DC Bird and their colleagues, their preferred weapon was a shotgun, but they may have changed their mind and just fancied something different and come down to a shooting range in Basildon, which Darren Nicholls would have had to make the same journey down here. But it is possible that Darren Nicholls had prior knowledge of this track, having driven past it. Right, so I'm not finished with this location, and if Darren Nicholls had prior knowledge of this track before the murders, and in the next video we will take a closer look at a possible link between Darren Nicholls and the White House Farm track. So this particular video will be continued, and it will carry on in the next video. And there is more to this, and the possible link with Darren Nicholls having prior knowledge of this track. But yeah, I mean, I might stretch it out to like a 3-parter. I'm not sure yet, but I'll definitely be carrying on with this particular location, this video. So what I'll do is I'll leave it here for the moment. And I'll start working on the next instalment of this location. And anyway, I'd just like to thank all the YouTube subscribers. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'm just going to quickly speak about the Facebook group as well, the Real Essex Boys Murder Club. We have over 20,000 members now. We're the biggest Essex Boys group on Facebook, with new posts being put on a daily basis. There's new members joining on a daily basis, and it's getting bigger and better all the time. I set the group up only 2 years ago, and like I said, we've got over 20,000 members today, which works out about, what, 10,000 members per year, which is, I mean, that's just quite an achievement. I'm just overwhelmed at how big it has grown, and it's down to the members with their contribution, with their comments and posts, and that's what makes it what it is today. So a big thank you goes out to you. It's much appreciated. And last of all, a big thank you goes out to all the admins who help keep the group ticking over. There's a lot goes into running this group, and we always work as a team, which is very important to me. We have a good, strong, loyal admins team, so I'd just like to thank every single one of them for all their help. Right, until next time, take care.